Hey, I guess this is the start of an actual devlog of mine because technically speaking, I actually talk during the devlog and I explain a bunch of stuff. So yeah, this is basically my devlog. As you can see here, this is generally how it's going to work. We have a height mechanic, we have a gun, stamina bar, bullet count, stick count. It's just a really vague it's just a very vague demo, just more of a proof of concept at this point. The level hasn't really been done yet. The main boss, the main enemy hasn't been done. It's a lot of scripting I'm gonna need to do the AI and stuff, like seriously. It's a lot. But anyways, I'm just going to go through all of my stuff and just tell you guys how I managed to do it. So first and foremost, how did I do this for of all? It's actually surprisingly easy. Like seriously, all I needed to do was create something called a sprite mask. Like all this basically does is that this little value, well, as you can see, it just makes the whole thing a bit more smoother. So the sprite render is going to be in a circle. And what this basically does is the following. If I set, like, for example, this bush to visible inside mask, it needs to be inside this circle for it to be seen. So if I were to move it, like, for example, outside, it practically becomes invisible. There's also a setting to make it triggable outside, none for it to be don't care at all, like outside, and it goes visible. So that's generally how the fog of war works. It's, honestly, it just took one video or so to do this. It's like, holy shit. The next is stamina mechanic. Honestly, this is fairly simple in all honesty. It's just simple left-right movement. The only thing I want to be concerned about is the actual movement mechanics, like the stamina system. It just basically decreases over time. I just have this float variable. So this is basically a percentage. So over time, I decrease this percentage. And for running, I just double the decrease rate all the way from 100 to 0. There's also a stamina bar, which basically is this visual indicator here, which just strings from left and right to the center. It's honestly fairly simple for that. And for this part, the whole intent of this stamina system is to punish the player for, moving around too much. So I do actually have a check that if stamina is straight up 0, I do have an exhausted check that prevents the player from moving whatsoever until stamina is back to full. But if you stop at any point of time and stamina is not full, you can just recover regularly, honestly. And not to mention, we have this tracker here. This is going to be important for the monster AI specifically. After that, let's just move to the gun. I kind of have a gun in my game, but it's for a very specific reason, and it's as a glorified flashlight. So we have some simple code. All this does is that it basically follows the mouse. I have a bunch of code that basically, wherever my mouse is, the gun will always point towards the mouse, and it will flip, so that it's always going to look like a fair bit smooth, as you can see here. Currently, it's a bit laggy, but honestly, it's fine for what it's supposed to do. Oh yeah, you see this little white circles. That's basically the punish. I'll talk about that in a bit. So let's just focus on the gun aspect of all the stuff. So yeah, if I were to click it basically expands your FOV for a limited time. The reason why I have this is because of a little something called muzzle flash. Because I looked up in the video, and apparently muzzle flash can be really bright, at like pitch dark. So yeah, that much has to be said. Other than that, you technically have a bullet count. You only have 3, so use them well, use them sparingly, of course. And you can also use them to kill a very specific enemy, which I will talk about when I talk about the cover height mechanic. So if you're in the bushes, you basically become hidden, so the monster won't be able to see you. But we also have to take note that there will be an additional punish. So if you stay in the bush too long, what basically happens is that it spawns critters. These critters basically serve as active beacons for the monsters to track. So the monster will always know where the player is if the critters end up spawning. So you can use the gun to kill them by just point and shoot. but they will disappear on their own if you wait long enough. But so long as they are around, you cannot hide. So do keep that in mind. And since you don't actually have any visual indicator as to how long it's going to take, you will have to do a bunch of guess and checking and estimate how long it takes. Not only that, we have a bunch of spawn sticks. This basically just randomly spawns sticks all over the level. So I spawn one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. Simple stuff, really. Oh yeah, we have this player tracker. It's just this simple camera script that basically just makes sure that the player is always centered. Other than that, oh yeah, we have Critter AI, which basically just follows the player until it's like X distance, a set distance away from the player, so that it doesn't just crash into the player straight up. It stays a good distance away. And there's also an additional check which also makes sure that it doesn't collide with other critters, so that they don't overlap. So they try to avoid each other after following the player. So honestly, that's about it. I do have like a few other managers which basically just is in charge of updating the UI here, which keeps track of the number of bullets in your possession and the number of sticks. And honestly, other than that, not really much else to talk about. So I guess that's all for my devlog. Really.